Hello and welcome to Moms TV. As a parent, who among us has not heard the following words? Well, everybody else has one. And no matter how much money we have, if it's a lot, a little, or none at all, it is hard to hear those words and to make the appropriate conclusion with your kids about how we're going to spend our money. So joining me today to talk about how to raise kids in an affluent society and how to talk to kids about money issues and learning things about money issues is Danielle Howard, the owner of Howard Financial Resources. Danielle is a certified financial planner designee. She is an investment advisor representative with Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a broker-dealer, a member of FINRA SIPC, and most importantly, you have been helping families in the Roaring Fork Valley for the last 18 years with their financial needs. So I'd say you're a bit of a pro. How do we do it? What are we supposed to say to our kids?
I am a work in progress myself, having just sent my last child off to college. It is a challenge to raise healthy financial kids these days.
It is, and speaking of college, I just read something the other day that 95% of college students say that their families have been directly affected by the recession of the last 3 years. So in other words, everybody's been affected by it.
Yep.
That's no small thing, but even without the recession, talking to kids about money has never been parents' favorite topic.
It's hard to talk about money and sex. So, talking about money, I think kids will probably learn more about money from what we're doing as parents, how we're talking to each other as spouses, how we're handling our bills, how we're handling whatever situation you may be in, whether you're, working and bringing in a lot of money or if times are a little bit rough. Kids are taking it all in. So we really have to take a look at what messages are we sending, either both right now in the current economic environment or even more so, we need to look back in our own histories to say, what messages did we get when we were growing up? What did I learn about money? How was it handled in my family? Because unless we take a look at what worked or what didn't work in our own upbringings, we're not going to be able to change anything.
Right, yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of us grew up perhaps with not a lot of money, and now we live in an affluent society. Everybody believes that we are better off now than our parents were. Although the last couple of years has certainly changed that. But how do we handle that sort of new money, if you will? I mean, a lot of us don't know how to talk to kids about it.
First of all, is it really new money or is it just new debt?
Yeah, good point.
The advent of credit cards has created a lot of false wealth. So a lot of people have bought things. Will Rogers said, why do we buy things with money we don't have to impress people we don't like? Something on that line of things. But, I don't think it's a matter of how much money you have in talking to our kids. I think it is a matter of having that healthy relationship. And, what does that mean? So, taking a look at the messages that we grew up with, and there's lots of them out there. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. We need to look at both the positive and the negative sides of any of those messages, attitudes, stories, and see what is really helping us in having a good relationship and passing that on to our kids. Or there may be some messages that we got that are not true, that are false, and how has that affected us?
Well, one of those false attitudes might just be scarcity. I don't have enough.
Exactly.
I'm never going to have enough. I can never get above it all.
In Lynn Twist's book, The Soul of Money, she talks about that's a lie, that we've all been told that we are not enough, that we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not rich enough, and that mentality of scarcity has caused us to be in an environment right now where people are in credit card debt and challenged in those areas.
Although there are people who have chosen not to even take out credit cards. They've chosen to not get into debt, but they still can't get past that belief that they'll never have enough.
Yep.
And they would be watching this right now saying, but I don't have enough. I can barely make ends meet, and I'm not in credit card debt, and I still don't have enough.
So is it a matter of taking a look at what is enough? How do we draw those lines in the sand? It's a matter of perspective. Go take a look at globalrichlist.com. And you can put in any amount of money. We put in, my daughter, when she was babysitting at 14, we put in $1,200 a year, you know, and she is in the top % of the world's wealth.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of times it's perspective. It's, you know, when we live in the Roaring Fork Valley, when we see so much abundance, and then you go out to the Midwest or pretty much go anywhere else in the world, you can go, wow, things seem really out of whack.
Right.
So it's a matter of reconnecting with what is really, really important to us as families, and then saying, we do have enough. And if you can move to that place of sufficiency and appreciation, if you can appreciate what you already have, then you're not going to go, oh, what else is out there?
And one of the things I know you talk about in terms of having a healthy relationship with money are the 3 buckets of money that you really recommend people, whether they don't have a lot of money or they have more than they know what to do with. You say these 3 buckets of money are the most important things to make sure you're adding to each month or each week.
Yeah, if you can visualize 3 buckets, a bucket for giving, a bucket for saving, and a bucket for spending. And the spigot that is feeding those buckets may be a trickle right now, or it may be on full force. You know, who knows? And it's going to vary at different times. We're always going to have economic seasons. We're always going to have, you know, life changes. So, you know, it's not about having huge buckets full. It's a matter of being intentional about what you do with those buckets.
So what are the buckets?
Buckets are giving, saving, and spending.
Okay.
Now, the world, society tells us you bring money in a variety of ways. You know, there's basically 4 different things you can do with money. You can get it, you can save it, you can spend it. Get it, give it, save it, and spend it. And usually people will prioritize the spend it first.
Yeah, well, that's the most fun.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Definitely. And so you spend it first, and you don't keep track, and you're not real thoughtful about what did I spend it on. Am I, you know, doing the things that are important to me? Am I, you know, buying organic? Am I buying American? You know, you're not even asking yourself these questions.
Right. So you're saying put some value behind what you're spending.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
That's one piece to it. But if you've spent it all, there's not going to be anything left over to save. And what is saving? It is just future spending. So, but people don't save. They want, you know, immediate gratification.
Right.
We stand in front of a microwave. It's not fast enough. We get online. You can't order something fast enough. You know, credit card, you whip it out, and, you know, we spend, spend, spend. But unless we can reprioritize to look at giving and saving and then spending, that we're not going to be able to change much. And if we as parents aren't looking at how we're reprioritizing things, then it's really hard to tell our kids to save something.
Yeah.
If, one, we don't know what we're saving for, if we've lost track of why we're doing all of this and how we're doing it, it's really hard to walk your kids through, you know, well, why did you choose to buy that toy over this toy? And how do we let our kids experience the pain of buying a toy that's going to break? And feeling that pain of, well, maybe we need to save up a little bit more to buy something of better integrity and, you know, it's a little bit better quality than buying the cheap stuff, and it's going to fall apart right away.
Right, and those are all lessons, you know, whether they're financial lessons or otherwise, that we learn through failure, through mistakes.
We have to have the failures.
So I want to come back and talk, when we add to our panel discussion here, a little bit more about some of the pieces that really help contribute to healthy relationships around money. And you've touched on 3 great ones: giving, saving, and then spending. And I think that's really key for anybody to understand how those 3 work, and then also just our attitudes. So when we come back after this break, we're going to be joined by our panel, and we'll continue talking about financial competency, raising kids with financial competency. welcome back to Moms TV. Thanks for staying with us. We are joined now by our panel of experts. Danielle Howard from Howard Financial Resources is back, as well as Susan Marolt, who is a mom of 3 and a CPA with Marolt LLP. So thank you guys both for joining me. I know you both know a little bit about money because you deal with it every day, but more importantly, you're moms. And that's what this segment is all about, is just breaking it down and talking realistically about what it's like to try to, raise kids with a good sense for money. And it is interesting in this valley, especially. You touched on that a little bit in our affluent society. And I loved your 1, 2, 3 giving, saving, spending in that order. And the giving in particular can be just something we're not focusing on with kids. Do you think around here we do more?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of service components in a lot of what they do at school now, which is different than when I grew up, for sure. And I think that helps them be more aware of that component.
Right.
It's not necessarily giving money, but it's giving time.
Well, that's true.
So,
there is more to it, I suppose, than it just having to be
right.
giving someone money. In fact, I like the service component to
Yeah.
it, because it's an attitude of sort of social responsibility.
And donating things and whatever. You know,
if
there's
it's Christmas
Right.
time and they know that, that Christmas or Hanukkah or some sort of birthday even, that they'll be getting new things coming in, it might be an opportunity to say, are there things that you aren't using now that we could give away? In this materialistic society, the idea of being able to go, well, that's been enjoyable for a time, and now you let it go. And that's sometimes a value to help children understand that, there's always going to be stuff coming in, and it's okay to let it go, too.
So does that count for giving? I mean, would you say that counts as far as your formula?
I think it's a start.
Yeah.
I think it's, one of the pieces in the process. I also like, if we get into allowances and stuff, but to help them decide, do you love animals? Well, let's look at care. Let's look at, different organizations. What is going on in the valley that is helping people out? And if you get an allowance, we're going to start right away by saying, is it 10%? Is it, you as a family need to decide, but, help the child decide of an organization or a cause or something that's of value to them.
Yeah.
That would be important for them. And then it's not only giving money, it's giving the time. Or if it's something that they're good at. If they might discover they're really good at running a camera, and they might want to volunteer for the local TV station.
Imagine that, to give their time.
To give their time. So,
well, let's talk about allowances, because you touched on that, and I'm curious what your philosophies are, because I get this question all the time when I'm either teaching parenting classes or talking to parents about, and I talk about it too. What do you do? What do you guys do? Do you do allowance?
We really didn't do allowances until they started getting older, and it seemed like every time we turned around, it was like, can I have money for a movie? Can I have money to go have dinner or whatever? And then we did put in a certain amount that they would get per month.
Yeah.
And then it sort of, we adjusted it if they wanted to get, texting on their cell phone, and that would come out of their allowance.
Okay.
So they could choose whatever that allowance was covering.
And we've done a similar thing. We paid for our kids' cell phones, which, by the way, they did not get in 5th grade. We were definitely the holdouts, but
Right.
as each one has gotten their cell phone, we'll pay for the $9.99 a month, family plan, but anything additional, they're expected to contribute to.
Yeah.
But one of the other things is we pay for jobs above and beyond. I mean, in my
Bringing
opinion, it sounds like
opportunities.
yours too.
No.
Part of taking care of the house is just part of being, in a family. And so, I'm not going to pay you to clean your room. I'm not going to pay you to scrub a toilet. But I will pay you to clean the garage out in the spring, which is a
Exactly.
big job, or
Yeah.
I will pay you to mow the yard, because we have a really big yard. So those kinds of things I think
We do
families
that
have to
too.
make different
Yeah.
decisions about.
that is, the earning opportunities, or the need to understand that money comes from somewhere is part of, in George Kinder's book, 7 Stages of Money Maturity, he talks about innocence and pain. And pain, part of learning and working through pain is understanding that some people have more than you, some people have less than you. But that work is a part of the financial world, and that it's it might be a little painful for a child to understand, but it's also a great opportunity. You know, if you have a list of, you know, well, we'll pay for this, this, and this, and they look at that list and go, oh, wow, today I have an extra hour. I could actually earn this.
Well, and they can weigh whether they think that's worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I see that a lot. If I tell my 11-year-old that I would pay her, you know, $5 an hour to do this, you know, clean out the shoes or whatever the project is, then she can look at it and go, oh, I don't know if I think that's what I want to do with my time, or that's worth it and I really want to earn some money.
Yeah. Right, yeah, great point. And we had the same thing with mowing the yard, that we said we would pay, you know, to our kids to mow the yard, and my daughter reached the amount of money she was trying to earn to go, you know, on a trip, and she was like, I don't think I'm going to mow the yard anymore, thanks.
And those are life lessons. I
Yeah.
mean, as we get older, those are the things that we are going to continuously wrestle with. And as we want to teach our children, you know, what type of jobs? Is it all about the money? No,
Right.
it's about, you know, finding what you're passionate about doing, finding out what you're gifted at doing, and then putting the money next. And I think our society has put so much worth on it's all about the paycheck that our kids are, you know, unfortunately not growing up in a world where they're learning who they are, what they're about, what they're good at. You know, it's
Do you think
true.
there's a shift happening at all?
Yeah.
With younger kids
Heading
now?
back the other way.
Yeah.
Where it used to be it's all about the paycheck. Now I think it's starting to shift because people are seeing, especially with this recession, that, wow, we could live on less. We've lived on less and we've survived it, and we're doing
Right.
okay.
And also, don't you think kids are realizing too that it's no longer the, you know, 50-year career and you retire with the gold watch, that people are having multiple careers. And
Very much so.
I think kids are a little more savvy than we were about
I hope
going after
so.
what they
Yeah.
really want to do.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so. There's also in this, the pain process, coming back to this, but it's a good thing. The idea that there's people, you know, have you ever had your kid say, how much do you make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so how much do you earn?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, because their friends at school have been talking about, well, my dad does this and my mom does that. So how do you answer that?
Yeah.
You know, well, we make more than some and less than others.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea that that there are some people that are better off than we are, and there are some people that are a lot more challenged than we are, is a process that kids need to go through. And I wanted to make this point today, is that we are robbing them of the opportunity to feel that pain when we answer that question of, well, everybody else has one, okay, we'll go out and get you one.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, that we're doing a disservice to our kids with the entitlement, with they just get it because everybody else has one, or because as parents we think we're supposed to be doing this. You know,
I get that with my friends who are much more tech savvy than I am, because I'm just not. We have an old stereo. I do, you know, my phone is not the fanciest one. I don't know how to work certain things. I'm just not into it, you know. So there's that piece of it, and then there's the money piece of it. But my kids are always wondering, well, how come we don't have, you know, that whatever electronic piece? Well, part of
Right.
it's just because I don't care, and I have to, you know, sometimes acknowledge that maybe they do,
yeah.
but I don't know.
Well, and I remember growing up, my parents, when I would ask, why don't we have this kind of car or whatever it is, their answer was always, we don't spend our money that way, which was interesting, I think, because it was sort of more, you know, gave you a little more power, like you've
choice.
chosen to spend
Exactly.
your money
Right.
differently, not that we, and it's true, there will always be someone who has more money or has less money than you do, and that's always going to be
We're
the
never
case.
going to be able to keep up with all the Joneses.
Well, but I
Right.
like what your parents said about that, because it really reflects their values too.
Yeah.
It's like me with the stereo equipment. It's just,
Yeah.
it's not that important to me.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
But other things are. And I probably spend money on things that other people would roll their eyes
Yeah.
at, you know?
But then you're
So
empowered to spend it however you would like to.
that's- yeah,
if,
exactly.
You know, within your own parameters.
Right.
But that's the opportunity we have right now in our current economic environment to take a look at what's truly important to us. And we can bemoan and we can blame the government, we can blame Wall Street, we can blame, or we can lay what we have out on the table, get a good sense of what assets do we have, what debts do we have, what do we have and how do we want to deal with it and communicate with our family in a way that is positive, and we're going to focus on the positive. And so as you're having these conversations about choices, I want this, instead of saying no, we can't afford that. No, we're making a choice. We're choosing to buy food today versus the toys today.
I love that. But even you could even say we're choosing to go camping this weekend instead of going to Lake Powell on a houseboat or whatever it is that's coming up,
Yeah.
And that's hard in this valley.
It is hard.
When my kids first came home saying, how come we don't have a yacht? I was like, oh, we live in a different world.
It is.
And I think Roger's always said that that's kind of liberating also, because the haves are so
heavy.
You feel like, well, that's really not something that we're going to achieve at this point. So, oh well, the keeping up with the Joneses isn't as intense, maybe.
Yeah, that's true. It is sort of freeing. You're right. I like that. That's a good way to look
and when
at
you
it.
look at all this stuff, and the insurance to pay the stuff, and the mortgage on the stuff, and the maintenance to keep up the stuff, it is a burden. So to decide what stuff is truly important in your life versus we need to have it all, and then how do we become content? What does contentment mean in our lives? So we're not just constantly grabbing for the next,
That's
what's
a great
out there.
question. I don't know how you, is there an answer to that question? It's very individual, I'm sure, but we all do it.
Yeah,
I think
it
we
takes
all
you back to the how much is enough. How can we be content?
And don't you think you just have to? Well, don't you think you just have to say to yourself, "I'm going to be content with this"?
Sure,
it's a choice.
I think that's the first step, anyway.
Right.
Because it is. It's a choice, just like where you spend your money. I'm going to be content with what I have, whether it's this house, this car, this, whatever.
And find the positives about it. Lynn Twist talks about what you appreciate appreciates. And as a parenting coach, you know that as you find real things in your children to compliment them about and to affirm them, then it just draws more. And it's universal law. It happens. What you appreciate appreciates.
Yeah, what you focus on grows is another way to say that too. Yeah. Well, that's good. So what else? What do you pay for? What do you not pay for? What do you expect them to pay for? And I'm curious about some of the things that they might need to save their own money for. And when do you start saying to them that that's for you to do, not me?
Our job as parents is to put a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food on the table. Now, the varying levels
degrees
of that
can
vary widely, but what is a reasonable amount to pay for a pair of jeans versus the branded stuff that costs 10 times as much? So within a family, and I think it's really important for spouses to be on the same page with this, is to have these conversations. We will pay for this for you, but if you want something more than that, then that's up for you to.
Okay, so it's okay to say, I'm willing to put in this amount, anything above that is yours.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think then they, particularly when I say, well, would you want to spend your own money on that? Their perspective changes dramatically about what they want. And so
they'll much more willingly spend your money, and if they have to spend their own, it's the skin in the game, and they'll take care of it better, they'll appreciate it better. Yeah, it's a whole ownership piece.
Yeah. You said something earlier about teenagers that I was thinking about, and I guess I'm wondering at what point is it time to talk to teenagers, and maybe it's even before they're teenagers, about how much money we make? Or is it ever appropriate?
I think
do you just always keep that to yourself?
No, I think there are times when you can, I think more, when they're reaching teenhood, to sit down and show them the bills, be walking through, these are our decisions, this is what we have coming in, this is what's going out, these are how we are making decisions about going out, what goes out. If we're doing family activities, if you're planning a trip, this is how much the trip is going to cost. This is what we're not doing for the months previous to the trip, so we can save for the trip.
So just having that ongoing discussion.
Ongoing conversations.
Well, I think, particularly when they're thinking about what careers they're going to go into, because I think it's hard for them to know what a salary would cover, and you know how that, what the expenses would be if you're living on your own, and
Yeah.
you know whether you can make a living doing whatever.
Well,
it
that's
is
a great
they're
point. You
interested
don't
in.
want to send them off blindly, having no idea how much different careers make. But at the same time, you know, we all know it's tough to sometimes know when to say to kids, you know, this is how much money our family has coming in, and sometimes that means nothing to them anyway.
Right. I
Because they
think
have no
it's hard
point of
for them to
comparison.
really,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's about walking them through the decisions you're making with what you have. You want to do the best you can with what you have. And, you know, at different ages, you know, having one that is heading off to college, you know, yeah, she knows what her portion of college is. She knows what our portion of college is. She knows when it needs to be paid. She knows. And that's just part of the communication process that a lot of us growing up never heard about.
Right.
Right.
You know, and that is just a great thing for us to follow up on another show, because believe it or not, we're out of time. And I think that that's a huge one. That's a huge topic, talking to kids about what we can afford for college. You know, this is what our family can contribute. And a lot of parents don't have that conversation, and then they find themselves in a real predicament. So that'll be for another week. You'll have to come back and talk to us again.
Would love to.
That would be great. Well, thank you guys so much. It's always nice to have wonderful moms here on the set. And thank you all for joining us about the conversation, talking to your kids about money. Save, give, spend, as Danielle would say.